Hello, my friends. Welcome back. I am so glad you are here with me today. Please find a comfortable place to sit. Take a deep breath and let your shoulders relax. Let go of the stress of your day. Today, we are going to tell a story. It is a story about history, about money, and about the human heart. I want you to imagine something. Imagine you are holding a small piece of paper in your hand. It is very light. It is just paper and a little bit of ink. Printed on this paper are a few numbers. Maybe they are your favorite numbers. Maybe they are your birthday, or maybe they were chosen completely at random. This little piece of paper costs only a few dollars. But when you hold it, it feels heavy. It feels important. Why? Because this small piece of paper holds a dream. It holds the dream of buying a beautiful new house. It holds the dream of traveling the world, of paying off all your debts, and of never having to worry about money again. You look at the numbers, and you wait for the results. Your heart beats a little faster. You cross your fingers and you hope. This is the experience of playing the lottery. Millions of people around the world do this every single week. But have you ever stopped to wonder where this game came from? Is the lottery just a modern invention? Is it just a clever game created by modern governments and casinos to make money? Or is there a deeper story? Today, we are going to explore the true history of the lottery. We are going to see how the simple act of drawing numbers is woven into the very fabric of human history. We are going to learn about chance, which is a word that means something that happens unpredictably without human intention. And we are going to talk about fate, which is the belief in a hidden power that controls what will happen in the future. Are you ready to travel through time with me? Let us begin our journey. Let's travel far back in time. We are going back over 2,000 years. Imagine we are in ancient China during the time of the Great Han Dynasty, around the year 200 BC. The air is thick with the smell of spices and wood smoke. The markets are busy with people trading silk and tea. But the leaders of the empire have a problem. They are fighting long, expensive wars. They need money to protect their borders, but the people are tired of paying high taxes. The citizens do not want to give the government any more of their hard-earned coins. So, a clever leader named Qiang Lung invents a game. He creates a game using beautiful Chinese characters. People can buy a ticket and try to guess which characters will be drawn. It was a game of luck and the people loved it. They bought tickets with excitement. But the empire was very large. How could people in distant villages know the winning characters? The organizers used messenger birds. They tied the winning results to the legs of white pigeons, who flew across the country to deliver the news. Because of this, the game became known as Beige Piao, or the white pigeon ticket. If you go to a casino today, you might see a game called Keno. Keno is the direct modern child of the white pigeon game. But here is the most amazing part of this story. The Chinese government did not just keep this money for themselves. They used the proceeds. Proceeds is a word that means the money obtained from an event or activity. They used the proceeds from the white pigeon game to fund the military. And eventually, this lottery money helped pay for one of the greatest architectural wonders in human history, the Great Wall of China. Think about that for a moment. When you look at pictures of the Great Wall, stretching across the mountains, remember that parts of it were built not by taxes, but by the hopes and dreams of ancient people playing a game of chance. Now, let us leave ancient China and travel across the world. We are going to ancient Rome. Imagine a grand, beautiful banquet hall. The walls are covered in colorful paintings. The air smells of rich wine and roasting meat. The wealthy elites of Rome are having a dinner party. At these parties, the host would give each guest a small piece of wood with a number on it. At the end of the night, numbers were drawn. Every single guest won a prize. Sometimes the prize was a beautiful silver cup. Sometimes it was a wild animal, or sadly even enslaved people. This was not a way to raise money. It was just entertainment for the rich. It was a way to show off wealth. But a famous emperor named Augustus Caesar saw an opportunity. Augustus was a smart ruler. Rome was a magnificent city, but it was aging. The streets needed repairs. The buildings were crumbling. He needed money for infrastructure. Infrastructure is an important word. It means the basic physical systems of a city, like the roads, the bridges, and the water pipes. Augustus decided to create the first lottery that was open to the general public. Ordinary Roman citizens could buy a ticket. The prizes were usually items of unequal value. The money collected was used to repair the city of Rome. However, we must also remember that leaving things to chance had a darker side in the ancient world. The Romans also used the drawing of lots for punishments in the military. This was a brutal practice called decimation, where soldiers would draw stones, and the one who drew the black stone would be punished by his own men. It reminds us that fate was not always about winning a prize. Sometimes it was a matter of life and death. As the centuries passed, the Roman Empire fell. Europe entered the Middle Ages. For a long time, the grand public lotteries disappeared. But the human desire to test fate did not vanish. Let's move forward to the 5th-10th century. We are in Northern Europe, in the area we now call Belgium and the Netherlands. This region was known as Flanders. Imagine walking through a medieval European town like Bruges. The streets are made of cobblestone. The buildings are tall and narrow, made of dark red brick. The town is growing, and it needs money to build thick walls to protect itself from enemies. The town also needs money to help the poor and the sick. The leaders of these towns decided to hold public lotteries. They would set up large stages in the town square. People would gather around, full of excitement, to buy a ticket. The prizes were usually money. This is an important moment in our story because it gives us the word we use today. The English word lottery actually comes from the Dutch word lot. In the Old Dutch language, lot meant fate or destiny. When you bought a ticket, you were buying a piece of your destiny. But to find the exact birthplace of the modern numbers game we call Lotto, we must travel south. We are going to the sunny coast of Italy, to the city of Genoa. Genoa was a rich and powerful city. The city was ruled by a council of 90 men. Every 6 months, 5 of these 90 men were randomly chosen to be the supreme leaders. This selection process was done by drawing names. The people of Genoa loved to gamble. They started to bet their money on which 5 men would be chosen. It became a huge citywide event. Everyone was placing bets on the politicians. But elections only happened twice a year. The people did not want to wait 6 months to play again. They wanted to play every week. So, the organizers had a brilliant idea. They took the names of the 90 politicians away. They replaced the names with the numbers 1 through 90. People would choose 5 numbers and bet on them. My friends, this was the exact moment the modern game of Lotto was born. Even today, hundreds of years later, many lotteries around the world still ask you to choose numbers from a pool of 50, 60, or 90. The ghosts of those 90 Italian politicians are still living inside your modern lottery ticket. The idea of the lottery began to spread across Europe like a fire. Kings and queens saw how much money could be raised without making their people angry with new taxes. Let us travel to England. The year is 1567. The ruler is Queen Elizabeth I. Elizabeth is a strong and famous queen, but her country needs money. She wants to build powerful ships and improve the ports so England can trade with the world. She decides to charter the very first official English national lottery. The advertising for this lottery was incredible. A massive scroll was printed and hung up in towns across the country. The grand prize was staggering. It was huge. The winner would receive £5,000. In those days, that was enough money to live like a king for the rest of your life. The prize included ready cash, heavy silver plates, and beautiful, expensive tapestries to hang on the wall. But tickets were very expensive. One ticket cost 10 shillings. For a normal working person in the year 1567, 10 shillings was the amount of money they earned in several months of hard labor. Because it was so expensive, people would group together. Entire villages would combine their money to buy one single ticket, hoping to share the prize. Queen Elizabeth knew it was a lot of money to ask for. So, she offered a very strange and fascinating bonus. She declared that anyone who bought a lottery ticket would receive temporary immunity from arrest. Imagine that. If you bought a ticket, the police could not arrest you for any minor non-violent crimes for a whole week. It was like a get-out-of-jail-free card. This shows us just how desperately the Queen wanted her people to play the game. Now, our story must cross the great ocean. We are sailing away from Europe to the New World. we are going to the early colonies of America. It is the early 1600s. The English have started a small settlement called Jamestown in Virginia. Life is incredibly hard. The winters are freezing. The settlers are starving and many are dying. The colony is failing and the Virginia Company back in London has no more money to send them. How did Jamestown survive? You guessed it. They held a lottery. The Virginia Company held huge lotteries back in London to raise money to send food and supplies across the ocean to America. Without the proceeds from these games of chance, the first English settlement in America might have completely disappeared from history. As America grew, the lottery became a normal part of life. It was not seen as a bad habit. In fact, it was seen as a civic duty. Civic duty is a phrase that means the responsibilities of a good citizen. If your town needed a new church, you bought a lottery ticket. If the town needed a library or a paved road, you bought a lottery ticket. Did you know that some of the most famous and prestigious universities in the world were built with lottery money? Harvard, Yale, Princeton, and Columbia University all used lotteries to build their early classrooms and dormitories. Even the founding fathers of the United States loved the lottery. During the American Revolutionary War, when the colonies were fighting for their freedom against the British, they needed money to buy guns and pay soldiers. The Continental Congress, led by famous men like Benjamin Franklin, tried to organize a massive national lottery to fund the army. It wasn't very successful, but it shows that the lottery was seen as a tool for survival and independence. However, the story of the lottery is not always happy. Whenever there is a lot of money, there is a risk of bad behavior. Let's move forward to the 19th century in America. This period is sometimes called the Gilded Age. During this time, the lotteries were no longer run by the government. They were run by private companies. These private companies became greedy. They realized they could print thousands of tickets, collect the money, and then rig the game. They would lie about who won. Sometimes they just took the money and disappeared. This introduces a sad but important vocabulary word: fraud. Fraud is a wrongful or criminal deception intended to result in financial gain. It means tricking people to steal their money. The most famous example was the Louisiana State Lottery Company. They made millions and millions of dollars, but the system was deeply corrupt. They bribed politicians and cheated the public. The people became very angry. They felt that lotteries were ruining society. They believed the games were destroying families and stealing from the poor. By the year 1890, the United States government stepped in. They passed a law that banned lottery materials from being sent through the mail. The Supreme Court declared that lotteries were a demoralizing influence on the country. The Great Ban had begun. For decades, the lottery completely disappeared from American life. It became a ghost of the past. But history always moves in cycles. Things that disappear often return. In the 1960s, state governments in America were growing. They needed to build modern highways, hospitals, and most importantly, schools. But just like the ancient Chinese citizens, modern citizens did not want to pay higher taxes. The politicians remembered the past. They realized they were missing out on a massive source of voluntary revenue. So, the government brought the lottery back. This time, they promised it would be different. They promised there would be no fraud. The games would be strictly controlled by the state. And the most important promise they made was about the proceeds. They promised that the profits would go directly to good causes, like public education, protecting state parks, and helping the elderly. Today, state-run lotteries are a multi-billion-dollar industry. But this brings us to a very important question. It brings us to the psychology of the draw. Why do we play? In the modern world, we have Mega Millions and Powerball. The jackpots can reach over $1 billion. When the prize gets that high, people wait in long lines outside of stores just to buy a ticket. But mathematically, the probability of winning is almost zero. Probability is a word that means how likely it is that an event will happen. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning than winning the major lottery jackpot. So, if our brains know that we will probably lose, why do our hearts insist on buying a ticket? I believe it is because we are not really buying a chance to win. We are buying a dream. For $2 or $3, you are buying a feeling. For the next few days, Until the numbers are drawn, you get to imagine a different reality. You get to close your eyes and imagine quitting a stressful job. You get to imagine taking care of your parents. You get to imagine a life of absolute freedom. In a world that is often difficult and tiring, a lottery ticket is a very cheap vacation for the mind. However, we must also think critically. Many sociologists and economists criticize the modern lottery. They call it a tax on hope. They point out that wealthy people rarely buy lottery tickets. It is often the most vulnerable people, those who are struggling financially, who spend a larger percentage of their income on these games of chance. They are desperate for a way out of poverty, and the government is selling them an illusion. It is an interesting debate, isn't it? Is the lottery a harmless way to dream and raise money for schools, or is it an unfair system that takes advantage of human hope? I will let you decide what you think. We have reached the end of our journey through time. Look at how far we have traveled. We watched ancient Chinese emperors fund the Great Wall with messenger birds. We saw Roman elites at dinner parties and ordinary citizens rebuilding their streets. We learned how a Dutch word gave us the name and how Italian politicians inspired the numbers. We watched English queens offer freedom from jail and early Americans build universities in the wilderness. We have seen the fraud, the bans, and the billion-dollar rebirth of the modern era. The history of the lottery is much more than just a story about gambling. It is a historical mirror. It reflects human society's relationship with money, with public responsibility, and with the great unknown. Since the beginning of recorded history, human beings have been fascinated by fate. We love the idea that no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, a completely random draw of numbers could instantly change your life forever. Thank you for listening, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this journey and learned some new words along the way. Now, I want to ask you a question. It is a fun question to practice your English. If you won the lottery tomorrow, what is the very first thing you would do? Who would you help? Where would you go? Would you like me to read your answers and give you feedback on your English? Leave a comment below and tell me your grandest dream. Until next time, keep studying, keep dreaming, and take care of yourselves. Goodbye for now.